Welcome, everybody. Episode 21 already. Time is flying. My name's Kai Hoffman. I'm the CEO of the Soar Financial Group. I'm extremely excited to welcome Patrick Downey. I always wanted to say Patrick Downey Jr., and I apologize for that in advance. I'll come to you in a second, Patty, because you can hear me already and see me, actually. But just a quick reminder for everybody. Please use hashtag AskOR, O-R-E, that's the company's ticker, in case you haven't noticed yet, for your questions. We're going to be live for about 15-20 minutes with Patty. We're going to be chatting about a few things, but if you have some questions that are burning at the tip of your tongue, please put them here on Twitter, message us, and we'll get those answered for you. Also follow us on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the alert button. That way you always get alerts when we go live with this format. So, Patty, let's switch over to you.
Okay, thanks, Guy.
How are you? How are things? And thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Things are good. Obviously the world has changed a little bit, particularly in our world, but we're all coping. It's gone well. We were early on it in terms of COVID operations plan, and we got it into place very quickly. I'm quite thankful. I got to say, in West Africa, Burkina, most of the other West African countries, including Ghana, shut things down from an international travel point of view quite quickly. So the cases there have been sort of, contained and things are in pretty good shape. We keep a daily update on it every day and keep on top of it and looking at not just Burkina, but the West African region as a whole. And so far it has been, kept in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I looked up the news this morning just to see what's going on in Burkina in terms of COVID-19 as well. And there's only 629 cases, and it seems to be all international travel related. So I saw that the U.S. ambassador and the Italian ambassador had it for some reason. But other than that, it's fairly contained. And as you said, the actions were quite firm and prompt.
Well, I think they were. I mean, we as a company, we were about 95% complete on what's called the RAP, the Resettlement Action Plan. We're building 1,100 homes, including infrastructure. That's churches, mosques, schools, clinics, etc. And we very quickly, we have daily meetings with the local communities. We very quickly said, look, we'd like to shut this down. It's going to mean a delay on your relocation. Are you guys comfortable with that? It means that we have less people coming and toing and froing into the villages. They were on top of it very quickly, and we stopped it. So it was the action plan was swift on our part. That was before the Burkina government shut things down in terms of international travel. That was about a week later. Mm-hmm. And then they also quarantined most of the major cities. So movement from the cities out was curtailed completely. So the COVID did not spread out around the country. It was, you're right, very much associated with international travel, and international travel is associated with the major cities, and they quarantined those very fast, and they have not opened up yet. So they have kept it very much within those major urban areas.
Oh, that's good to hear. One thing I heard, the Minister of Mines for Burkina Faso contracted COVID actually at PDAC.
Well,
have you had any interaction with him during PDAC?
He definitely got it. And look, I think PDAC was a root of it, a source of it. It went back into a number of other mining companies brought it back in and whatever. Thankfully, they're isolated camps so they could deal with it and deal with it quickly, like B2 did, like Endeavour did. So very quickly they dealt with it and it didn't spread. So you're right, PDAC seemed to be a source of it, but it was very, very quickly curtailed.
Okay, I'm slowly getting sick of the whole topic, to be quite honest, because you're like the 20th interview we've been talking about it, and but it's good to get an update because it's really important. What does it mean for the companies, and has mining been deemed essential, or how is Burkina handling the mining situation right now?
Yeah, look, we keep in contact with all the mining operating companies. Mining has been deemed essential. All supplies are continuing to go in under very strict conditions as to how they're delivered, but everything has been running as usual. The mining companies have changed most of their turnarounds on the project. So expats who were there, they remain there. They're not moving. Unless there's some particular reason, like they've got COVID or there's an emergency or a death back home. There is some emergency flights in and out run by the French government and a few others. But the mining companies are deemed essential, and things are continuing to run per normal, albeit that movement in and out of sites is strictly monitored. You have to be tested, and most people now are moving in 6 weeks in, 2 weeks out, not the 2 and 2 that it was before.
Okay, oh, that makes sense. Okay, let's get on to a little more positive things besides being tested positive and stuff like that, right? So let's, all jokes aside here. But you've recently received the ESIA approval during COVID, I think, if I've seen the date correctly. So
that's correct. It is correct.
So that was just, 16 days ago. I've lost all track of time. Like April just flew by. I've been holed up for 6 weeks now, and
was that April? I don't even know it was April.
Yeah, it's like it is really confusing. Seriously,
we're not in March.
No, but let's talk about that, because I think that's an important approval that you got there, and it happened during an interesting time as well, like where you think governments might be shut down and stuff. So let's talk about that approval.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important approval. Look, we have these high-grade sulfides, both P17 South and underneath some of the oxides. We identified those in late 2018, started to look at them. We did a feasibility study, which we released in 2019, but we had to get the permit. So we did all of that work, and there's a couple of key points about that permit that I really want to make. We did all of that work. The banks are lending the monies to us on the basis that a significant portion of it would be allowed and ring-fenced to build those sulfides. And by building the sulfides, we go from a 90,000 ounce a year average over 10 years to 140. That's huge for us. Yeah. And it also opens up all the sulfides. Not only are there, we've got, 3 million tons of M&I sulfides. We're only mining, 3 million ounces. We're only mining less than, 700,000 of those, 800,000 of those. We're focusing on the high grade because we did it all at $1,100 gold, but they're all permitted now.
Okay.
And the government worked with us very closely. We got it in, and they continued to work on the file and got the permit completed and issued. Now, there's a very important point on that. P17 South also requires a small RAP relocation. Okay. If we were doing anything wrong, or if the locals were not happy with the RAP that we were doing, or anything like that was not progressing well, because we're doing RAP right now, that would not have happened. Yeah. And it would not have happened in the time frame that it did. And that shows you the positive support from not just the government, but from everybody around us. Yeah. So that was also really important for us. So, so it opens up, 4.5 million ounces down to an average depth of 160 meters. It's massive for us.
No, that's fantastic. And you mentioned something that's actually quite interesting. You did your resource and reserve calculation at $1,100 gold. So how does the current environment sort of affect your models now?
Well, we just did an internal one just recently at $1,500 gold. I think it ran our NPV up to almost $700 million after tax. So that's sort of what you're looking at here. It obviously, will help the financing where gold is going to be in terms of what we have to do in terms of ring fencing the reserve cash for the sulfide expansion. If you do it at $700, it gets goofy, to be frank with you. Yeah. But the one thing that we have done here, and it's also important to note, when I took over this, we set out to build a project that Orezone could build. It could raise the capital, and it could build the project. That was oxide first, and then higher grade sulfide next. But we've designed that circuit, and people look at it and they go, wow, your sulfide circuit is a bit spread out. Could you not make it a bit tighter, save yourself a bit of capital? Yeah, sure we could. But we've left it so that you can go from 2.2 million tons of sulfide to 4.2 million tons of sulfide. And all you need to do is add 4 more tanks and a ball mill. It's about $26 million to double the throughput.
That's insane. Okay,
that optionality and that functionality of that circuit is really important to understand. So we can grow this quickly if need be.
Okay. So what's holding the stock back right now? Like you crashed like everybody else early March, run through the door for liquidity, right? And everybody tried to get cash on the books here. But what's holding you back now in general? Like, of course, there's a Burkina discount, and we're going to talk about your neighbors in a second as well, because they're doing extremely well. But what's the holdback? Like, what do investors need to see coming out of Orezone right now?
Well, I think number one was getting that permit, but number two is the debt. I mean, I think our share price has improved significantly since we announced
Oh
that
yeah,
permit being granted. That was you saw the catalyst. I think we've almost doubled in price since that
yeah.
permit
You went
got
from like 24 cents to what is it, 55 or
50,
something today? So
55,
yeah,
56. So that was one thing. I think secondly, people were expecting us to announce the debt. And by the way, we were about to announce the debt. And all of that work's done, and then COVID happened, and now banks can't get on planes to do their final on-site
okay,
walk around. All the technical due diligence is done.
no,
All of the environmental due diligence is done, but they need to set foot on the project, and that was set for April, just the week before Easter, actually. So now we have to wait, till that happens. And that people thought, oh, we're going to lose our debt. We're not losing our debt.
no, that's
It's
not
not,
going away. No,
it's not going away. And by the way, it's in a French, sort of, friendly country. Our banks are all French based. So, when it comes back and things start opening up again, we'll be there.
yeah,
So and we've got the money in the kitty. We're in great shape in that regard. We're not scrambling around wondering what 2 million in the kitty going, what the hell are we going to do here? That's all in good shape. So that held it back. It was just that, oh my God, the debt's no. People now understand that's incorrect. So we're starting to see trickling back in people looking at value, and we are extremely undervalued. And just to take your example of our neighbor in January of 2019 was 24 cents.
yeah. And they're trading at, was it 74 or
70
something?
plus.
Yeah, so yeah,
They built a mine in a year. Go look at their website. They started clearing and grubbing in March of 2019. They poured first gold in March of 2020. People ask about Burkina risk, etc. I always go, okay, name me 5 projects in Canada that were permitted on time, built under
yeah.
budget,
There's probably the first point is already mute.
operated
So
to the flow sheet, are dividending back money to the shareholders, and they go, and they can't name one. Well, I'll name you. Right next door to us is WAF.
no,
Then you've got Teranga Wanyan, Hyundai, Yaramoko, Karma,
no,
Iti, Toro. Look at Fekola.
no.
I mean, it's a great place to build and run a mining company. So it gets an African discount. I still don't understand why.
It might have to do with ISIS in the north, but that's a different story.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot about that.
No, but
I was born in the Troubles. Troubles is just another thing.
we don't even know. We don't even notice anymore. So,
But it has calmed down for sure. I mean, look, there was a big overreaction to that. It's restricted to the north and to the east. I think a couple of things have happened in the middle of all of that. But by the way, 2 mines were built, Teranga and West African, and now Endeavour has purchased Semifo.
that's the other one I wanted to address actually. Endeavour buying Semifo is quite interesting because Semifo is shut down right now. In fact, they're not producing right now.
Their one mine is shut down. That's correct.
So that is quite interesting. So the activity is heating up in Burkina. One of the questions we got, and we're going to switch over to Twitter here in a second, is why aren't you merging with West African?
I think we're too undervalued at this point. I mean, look, I think West African have seen what's happened to them. Does it make sense? Boy, if you look at that area, if you draw an arc of a circle, you've got 10 million ounces of measured and indicated resources. At the end of the day, if it was Nevada, yeah, probably something would happen. But remember Nevada when it started up, it was all broken up as well. So sometimes it takes people a little bit more time to get things done. We think, I think West African wanted to show the world that he could build a mine and run it and it's operating, and that's what he's done. We're in the same boat right now. We're right at the cusp of building it, and that's where the value starts coming in. If the two went together, you'd be seeing a company producing 400,000 ounces a year. You'd be a mid-tier in a heartbeat.
No, and you said before, like you're willing to build, and you got an operational team that can build it. So, are you going through with that threat?
Look, Kai, I've been in this business a long time. You know, I've always gone as if get the team that you can build it and build it right. I'll give Viceroy as an example.
No.
You know, people didn't believe in the project, low grade up on the side of a mountain. We did all the work. We started, and we were right. We raised the money. We were building it, and Yamana bought us, and they paid a good price for it. And it became a very successful mine. Other ones, I've done it where I built it, and then sold it afterwards. So it just depends on where you are in the value cycle, where people see you are, and where you understand your true value. But you absolutely have to be capable of building it. You have to be capable, and you have to have the.
You can't put the for
And
sale
you have,
outside the door
yeah,
from day
correct.
one.
And
So
look,
that just doesn't work.
announcing the bank debt. Anybody who wants to come and talk to us, they know we've got an alternative. We can build it ourselves, guys.
Yeah.
And look what happened to Toro. Toro was in Senegal, smaller sort of a project, very hard rock, in amongst a nature reserve. It was pretty obvious that they tried to sell it at some point. They didn't. They built it, and then they sold it to Resolute for $330 million when they had taken the risk away from it.
Yeah.
That's the way it happens sometimes.
Yeah, well, Karma is a good example too. Like that's not
100%.
Like,
Karma was built. Nobody believed in it. They got it built, got it running. Boom.
done.
Endeavor bought.
Exactly.
Done.
So that's exactly what it needs to be. Let's go to those Twitter questions. You recently raised $20 million. And I didn't fact check the question, to be quite honest, but why did the recent equity financing include a 3-year half warrant as an incentive?
Well, there was two reasons to do that. When this MFO incident happened, we were again right on the fairly detailed into our bank discussions. The banks, everybody stepped off because people didn't know what was going on in Burkina. They wanted to know what was happening. The banks came back to us and said, look, we're more confident things are calming down. We want to reopen negotiations here. But can you raise the equity?
Yeah.
Can you guys, if we don't want to be giving you a term sheet and then we find out there's no equity out there. So we raised some equity, not a lot. And the half warrant is there because the catalysts come in that 3-year period. You get your debt, you start your construction, you start your operation. So we showed to the banks, A, we could raise the equity, and we had our pro rata shareholders, and B, by the way, there's more equity that's embedded within that, and the catalysts are there within that 3-year time frame to show that it can be done. And that gave the banks a huge level of confidence that the debt is going to be put to use.
No, that's a good sign. What price was the warrant at?
80 cents.
Oh, okay. So we still got a runway to go. Quite a bit of ways to go there. So I wouldn't call it an overhang just yet.
No.
So, other question that came in through Pete Panda, and he's coming back to West African resources and asking how compatible are the ore bodies and ways of processing, and is that a factor in making a decision?
No. The factors in making the decision, is obviously haulage costs and access, and then the ore bodies are reasonably compatible. The reason you would do something like this is pretty straightforward. To run a company, and you can look it up in anybody's MD&A in Burkina, it's $10 million G&A locally. I don't care if you're doing 2 million tons a year or 5 million tons a year. That's what it cost.
Okay.
So now you got two companies and you put them together, that 10 million doesn't become, 20 million doesn't become 10, but it'll become about 12. Okay. There's $8 million dollars a year you're saving directly over a 10-year. That's $80 million of value. Then the second thing you've got is that you've got corporate G&A, and there's another probably $4 million. So you're looking at $12 million a year.
No.
That's a huge NAV.
No.
To the bottom line. Would there be sometimes a longer term thing where you would go, okay, look guys, we're into the higher grade sulfides, we'll just truck this over and we'll add it to that? Yeah.
How far is it? What's the distance?
It's about putting in a road about 15K.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what is that? Not even half a point, or I don't even know. Like it's.
Well, it's 10 cents per ton.
Yeah.
10 cents per ton kilometer.
I was going to come up with a gold grade, what it equalizes, but it's too minuscule.
Oh, it's 0.02 of a gram or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's, yeah.
So, but what you would do if you looked at it now and built both, really what you would do is, I've done it in Nevada before. So instead of having two gold processing, which is security and et cetera, where the value is, you would just take the carbon from, say, Bombore
Mhm.
and just truck it over. Now you're trucking 2,000 gram per ton
Yeah.
material over to them, process it, pour your gold there. There's another, and all that capital's gone. There's your another, couple of bucks a ton that you're
Easily.
saving
Yeah.
on top of
Yeah.
that.
The NAF savings are crazy. It's like
And
what?
the
Yeah.
the security, the people, the shipping, because now you don't have to ship it twice, so all of that's done at a one
Yeah.
spot. And that's how Barrick and Newmont really started to get together. They were actually processing each other's carbon,
Yeah. And
so that's where it came from.
that's no, they've been having that relationship for years and years, and
Yes,
it just makes
correct.
sense now. Good question. Actually, is a follow up, or not a follow up, but it's does the favorable gold environment make life easier for a developer? And I'm quite keen because I've been asking other companies as well about generalist interest at $1,700 gold. Like, who's calling you today?
Uh, Lots of people. Besides what you call the typical door kickers on the M&A side, which has become quite noisy. There are a lot of guys looking at value and looking at where we're at in the cycle, and we are at that time. You're sort of an orphan in the cycle. You're not exploring and you're not producing,
You
so you're at
just
that
yeah.
stage. So yeah, there's quite a bit of interest in it, and we're highly leveraged to gold. I mean, if you look at the gold price, we're highly leveraged to it. So yes, the interest is definitely coming back, and I've just by the number of calls that I'm fielding from both specialists and more generalists.
Yeah. Curious because you said the debt deal is almost done. Only thing missing is boots on the ground to see whether the project actually exists. Yeah, but
Yeah.
with the gold price environment changing now, and let's call it the lag of getting the deal done. Do you see better offers coming in or more offers coming in? People
We,
trying
we're
to
not we're not
snipe at the
really
last second?
we're not really entertaining offers at this point because we don't think we're at a share price that really reflects us entertaining too many offers. So we keep the conversations going. We push it off by saying, look, guys, we can't get the site, and you can't get the site. And people can say, well, we can do things virtually. Well, yeah, you can, but no, we'd rather have the debt piece done or close to done. Then we can say, look, we're more interested in talking now because we've got a plan B in hand if plan A doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay. I think those were most of the Twitter questions. I hope I didn't forget any important ones. Let me just scroll through here again. We talked about the equity financing of the Warrens, merger with WAF. We talked about extensively.
By the way, there's more than WAF out there. I mean, you've got West African is absolutely crying out for consolidation. It's starting to happen a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw Resolute taking over Toro. You saw Endeavor taking over Semifo.
Yeah.
You know, you saw a big investment into Golden Star
Yeah.
of a key shareholder. You saw Endeavor and Centamin sort of
Finally. Yeah.
trying to do
Dancing
something,
at least. Yeah.
right? So you're gonna see it's not there's a lot of um, interest out there in consolidating the West African space.
Yeah. No, after
You
Randgold
know.
left, or because Barrick Randgold merger, I think that was the initial trigger.
Yes.
But that set a whole wheel in motion, I think. So, one question I have, like you just announced today, I think it was, that you moved up to the OTCQX best market. And
Yes.
I'm not very familiar with the OTC, I have to admit. That's not something I look at usually. But enlighten us, what do you think that's going to do? And then we can wrap up the conversation as well because we're getting to our time limit a bit.
Okay. So look, we have a lot of U.S. shareholders. We've been reaching out to some U.S. retail and taking inbound calls on that, and we just think that it's a way better and simpler way to trade for that U.S. market. And look, Kai, I'm just my own opinion. I'm not a gold bug. I've been in the gold business since the day and hour I graduated. I've been through ups and downs in the gold cycle, but I do believe there's going to be a run and a strong run in gold. I absolutely cannot see why there won't be. And there's going to be a lot of U.S. investor interest in it because they're printing money like it's going out of fashion, and they'll continue to print money. And by the way, I think the guy in the White House will absolutely print more money to try and get himself reelected.
Yeah.
So I see that there's going to be a lot more interest both out of Europe and out of the U.S. on the gold sector, and that's one of the other reasons we're doing it. we think that it makes life a lot easier for people to trade the stock who are that generalist issue or the retail interest in gold.
Yeah, the generalists. I just can't wait for them to come back. And fortunately, we've seen a bit of a scare in the market. I've been saying that for months and months now, that we do need the 401k money to be scared a little bit and start chasing returns again. And they won't get them in the Dow Jones or S&P right now. So
it's not going to happen. And there's going to be a lot of companies that are likely going to be in more serious trouble here than we, we seem to be getting these dead cat bounces at some of these companies. Oh, it's coming back.
Yeah,
COVID's ending. It's not ending.
No.
Do we have a vaccine? I haven't heard of it yet. So it's not ending, and it's going to be more difficult for people, and it's going to be good for gold.
No, and a lot of companies were on the ropes or just had dwindling quarterlies anyway, and now COVID is a good excuse for them to hide it. And actually, I need to do a podcast or something with somebody who can speak an honest word about companies actually shutting down mines, hiding under the COVID cover. So that's a discussion for another day. But
you've hit on a very interesting topic.
So it feels like a bit of a bee's nest. So, but Patty, last 30 seconds. Like, why don't you give us just a quick, or why don't you put a bow around Orezone for us right now? Like, why should we buy it, and what's coming up in the next 3 to 6 months for you guys?
Okay, so first of all, we're a fully permitted operation in a jurisdiction that you can get mines built, and you can get them built on time and under budget. No. Not just on budget, under budget. The project is very well defined now, and it's got huge upside. We're in a part of the cycle now where we're at a huge value proposition. You look at where Orla is when it got its debt. Look at Orla. Look at West African. We're going to be next in there. Once that starts moving, it's really you're either going to get on the train now or you're going to miss it. No. It's just simple as that. We've got a great shareholder base, highly supportive. You've got RCF in there, Sun Valley, Van Eck, Joe Foster, Equinox, so we got a very, very solid shareholder base that have been very supportive throughout and have been to the project, by the way. These guys have all been to the property.
Cool.
They know it.
And they got the deep pockets for the equity financing coming up. So
correct.
Cool.
We're ready to go, and once we announce that debt, it's game on.
Fantastic. Great. Let's get over this COVID thing. Let's get rid of it. I'm done with it personally. Let's go back to life. But cool, Patty. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Everybody else.
No, absolutely. I really appreciate you having me, and I hope people have got the message. And it's going to be a good time for Orezone, I believe.
I think so too. Timing is right, and developers are definitely the way to play this market at this point before it starts trickling down into the junior end of things. So
correct.
Cool. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you very much for your questions. That was great. We had a really good engaging conversation here with Patty. Make sure to follow us here on Twitter, YouTube as well. Make sure to subscribe, turn on the alerts. That way you always get notified when we go live. And make sure you give us thumbs up. That shows us that you're liking what we're doing here and is good feedback for us as well. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Stay safe.